Well, I got connections, and I know how to play the game. I'll help you get elected.
What does Dwight get out of this?
You let me worry about Dwight.
I heard that Dwight...
Tulsa King just went from crime drama to full-blown Greek tragedy, and Dwight Manfredi's sitting right in the middle of it, crown slipping, empire cracking, and enemies circling like vultures. What started as a flex of dominance has turned into a desperate scramble for control. His crew's fracturing, his allies are ghosts, and the city that once bent to his will now smells weakness in the air. You can feel it, the walls are closing in, the calm before the chaos. And the craziest part? Dwight still thinks he can talk his way out of a war he already started. This isn't business anymore, it's blood, ego, and betrayal, and everyone's playing for keeps. Tulsa King isn't crime TV anymore, it's a lesson in what happens when power meets paranoia. Dunmire's playing chess while Dwight's still throwing punches, the feds are tightening the noose, and Chickie's ghost is practically laughing from New York. The empire's rotting from the inside, and the only thing more dangerous than Dwight's enemies might just be Dwight himself.
Where'd you stash it?
I don't got your money.
I ain't talking money. I want the Montague 50.
Dwight's House of Cards, the beginning of his downfall. Dwight Manfredi built his Tulsa kingdom on charm, muscle, and that stubborn delusion that he could outsmart both time and loyalty. But Season 3 is proving that even the general can't outgun the rot beneath his own empire. You can almost see the cracks forming in real time. Every handshake deal now looks like a noose tightening around his neck. The same city he tamed is now eating him alive. One betrayal, one miscalculation, one favor at a time. It's poetic in that cruel Taylor Sheridan way. The man who thought he could run the show clean is finally realizing the show's been running him. And let's be honest, Dwight's empire was always more duct tape than dynasty. The feds circling, the Dunmires out for blood, Tyson gone missing, his crew turning twitchy. It's like watching a slow-motion car crash in a whiskey barrel. The bravado's fading, the allies are thinning, and the facade of control is cracking like cheap glass. Dwight's biggest problem isn't his enemies, it's his ego, the same one that made him think Tulsa could be tamed. Now every move feels reactive, desperate, and drenched in that quiet panic of a man who finally realizes he's running out of corners to hide in. This isn't just the fall of Dwight Manfredi, it's the dismantling of the myth he built around himself. The idea that an old-school mobster could build something pure in a corrupt world was always a fantasy. And now we're watching the hangover hit. The king's crown is slipping, the castle's burning, and the people he once inspired are starting to look for exits. Tulsa was supposed to be his rebirth, but Season 3 is making damn sure it becomes his reckoning. Tyson's disappearance, the emotional breaking point. Tyson's disappearance isn't just another plot point, it's the emotional gut punch this show's been winding up for. Dwight's not a man who handles loss quietly. He bottles it, smokes it, and weaponizes it until the whole city feels the aftershock. Tyson was never just a driver, he was the moral thread that kept Dwight tethered to something human, something real in all the chaos. And now, with him gone, Dwight's sliding dangerously close to that line between vengeance and insanity. You can almost see the storm brewing in his eyes, the kind of fury that doesn't end with answers, just casualties. But the question hanging over this mess is cruelly brilliant. Did Tyson get taken, or did he finally get smart enough to walk away? Either way, it leaves Dwight unhinged. If the Dunmires are behind it, then this is a declaration of war wrapped in a ransom note. If Tyson bailed, it's even worse because that means Dwight's grip isn't just slipping over his crew, it's snapping completely. The man who thought loyalty was his currency might have finally overdrawn his last account. And that's where Tulsa King hits its darkest nerve, when emotion becomes the trigger. Tyson's absence doesn't just wound Dwight, it exposes every weak spot he's been pretending doesn't exist. His empire's falling apart, his allies are ghosts, and now the one person who saw him as more than a mob relic might be gone for good. This isn't about power anymore, it's about whether Dwight can survive the emotional collapse that's been chasing him since episode 1.
$150 million worth of unreplaceable booze. That's gone. Then we find the 15.
Jeremiah Dunmire's ruthless counterstrike. Jeremiah Dunmire isn't the kind of villain who shouts, he doesn't have to. His counterstrike isn't loud, it's surgical. While Dwight's been busy posturing and trying to keep his ragtag empire from imploding, Jeremiah's been tightening the noose with the precision of a man who's played this game for generations. He's not interested in taking Tulsa back with bullets. He's starving Dwight out of it, cutting supply lines, freezing assets, pulling favors from powerful ghosts in dark suits. It's warfare with a silk glove, and Dwight's realizing too late that brute force doesn't win against old money that's been feeding off corruption since before he was born. This isn't a mob war, it's an extinction event. Jeremiah's playing chess while Dwight's still swinging a baseball bat, and every move the general makes now feels reactive, sloppy, emotional. Dunmire's the kind of man who doesn't need to kill you to destroy you. He'll just turn your allies into liabilities, your deals into evidence, and your city into a cage. You can already feel the shift. Tulsa's no longer Dwight's kingdom, it's Jeremiah's playground, and the mobster from Brooklyn has finally met a predator who kills politely. What makes it sting worse is that Dwight knows it. You can see the humiliation simmering beneath that calm exterior. A man realizing he's being dismantled not by force, but by finesse. Jeremiah isn't after blood, he's after legacy, reputation, the psychological kill shot. And in true Sheridan fashion, that's always the cruelest ending. Not when your enemies destroy you, but when they make you watch yourself crumble piece by piece until you finally admit you've already lost.
Are you Walden?
The distillery deal's fallout, a deal with the devil. The distillery deal was supposed to be Dwight's masterpiece, the elegant solution that would legitimize his empire, clean up his image, and prove to everyone, including himself, that he could play the game without getting his hands too dirty. Instead, it's turning into a slow-motion curse, a handshake with the devil that's bleeding him dry. What looked like smart business has become the perfect choke chain, a public front ripe for federal leverage, Dunmire sabotage, and insider betrayal. The brilliance of it all? Dwight set the trap himself. He tried to go straight in a crooked town, and Tulsa just laughed in his face. This fallout isn't just financial, it's existential. Every bottle that rolls off that distillery line is a reminder that Dwight's dream of legitimacy was a fairy tale. The feds see it as a front, the Dunmires see it as a weakness, and his crew, they see it as proof that the boss is slipping, losing his edge, playing businessman when he was born to be a wolf. What was meant to elevate him above the mob has dragged him deeper into the mud, and now the vultures, legal and otherwise, are circling for the scraps. You can feel the irony oozing out of every frame. Dwight tried to build something that would outlast him, but in doing so, he built the very thing that'll bury him. The distillery was never a symbol of progress. It was a monument to pride, to that fatal belief that a man like him could ever outrun what he is. Now it's collapsing under the weight of that delusion, and it's taking everything he loves down with it. Internal betrayal, the rat in Dwight's crew. Every empire has a Judas, and Dwight's is starting to smell like betrayal. The only question is who's cashing in their loyalty for survival. The feds know too much, the Dunmires are too coordinated, and Dwight's every confidential move seems to leak like a broken faucet. Somebody on the inside is talking, and the paranoia is spreading faster than the whiskey in his busted distillery. The tragedy? It's not just betrayal that's killing Dwight, it's the quiet realization that he created the kind of world where betrayal was inevitable. You can feel it in every interaction. The darting glances, the hesitant nods, the way conversations suddenly go quiet when Dwight enters the room. His crew's loyalty has always been transactional, built on fear, favors, and fading respect. But now the stakes have shifted. Survival trumps loyalty, and Dwight's charm isn't enough to hold a collapsing kingdom together. The rat isn't just someone giving up secrets, it's someone cashing in on the chaos before the whole house burns. And that's the beauty of it. Sheridan's storytelling thrives in these moral implosions. The betrayal won't come from the obvious suspect. It'll come from the person Dwight trusted most, the one who swore they'd never turn. because that's what makes it sting. The question isn't if Dwight's crew has a traitor, it's how deep the knife goes when it finally twists, and by the time he finds out, it might already be too late for the general to salvage what's left of his empire.
Walter, you don't mind if we take a few samples on the way out?
Of course. Whatever you would like, just...
Cleo's breaking point, loyalty or survival? Cleo has always been Dwight's quiet enforcer, tough, loyal, and the only one in his orbit who can look him in the eye and call him on his own bullshit. But in Season 3, that loyalty's starting to feel less like devotion and more like a death sentence. You can see the cracks forming in her patience, the weariness of standing next to a man whose empire is collapsing and pretending it's not. Cleo's survival instinct is kicking in, and it's not a question of if she'll break, it's when. She's too smart to go down with a sinking ship, and Dwight, blinded by ego and nostalgia, might not notice until she's already gone. Her loyalty used to be rooted in respect, maybe even admiration. But as Dwight spirals, that respect is curdling into something colder. Watching her navigate this mess is like watching a soldier stuck in a war that stopped making sense years ago. Every move Dwight makes now comes with collateral damage, and Cleo's starting to see that survival might mean stepping out of his shadow, or worse, stepping over his body. That's not betrayal, that's self-preservation in a world where loyalty is the fastest way to get buried. What makes it brutal is the emotional weight behind it. Cleo isn't some disposable side character. She's Dwight's conscience made flesh, and if she snaps, it won't be clean, it'll be messy, tragic, inevitable. Her breaking point could be the show's turning point, the moment where Dwight finally realizes the cost of leading like a king in a world that's done kneeling. And when she finally chooses survival over loyalty, it won't just break Dwight, it'll shatter the illusion that he ever had control to begin with. The Fed's trap. Dwight as the perfect pawn. The Feds don't need to take Dwight down, they just need to let him hang himself. That's the brilliance of their play this season. They're not kicking in doors or flashing badges anymore. They're orchestrating a symphony of chaos and letting Dwight conduct his own downfall. Every deal he makes, every friend he trusts, every move he calls strategy, it's all feeding into the narrative they've been building quietly behind the scenes. They don't want the general dead, they want him desperate, predictable, and pliable. A man cornered isn't dangerous. He's useful. Dwight thinks he's too smart to get played, but the Feds have mastered the art of letting men like him believe they're in control. They're pulling strings from the shadows, dangling just enough pressure to make him paranoid, but not enough to make him fight clean. And while he's out there throwing punches at ghosts, they're building the case, stacking the bodies, and lining up the fall guys. The beauty of it? When it all comes crashing down, Dwight won't even see it as manipulation. He'll think it was his idea all along. It's the kind of quiet, methodical warfare that makes Sheridan's writing hit hard. Not the explosions, but the erosion. The Feds don't need bullets. They have bureaucracy, leverage, and time. And Dwight, stubborn to the bone, keeps giving them all three. He's the perfect pawn because he's convinced he's the king, and by the time he realizes he's been moved into checkmate, the game will already be over. Chickie's shadow looms large. Chickie may not be in Tulsa, but his shadow stretches farther than any bullet Dwight's ever dodged. The guy's presence is like a curse that won't wash off. You can feel it in the tension of every scene, in the paranoia creeping behind Dwight's eyes. Chickie represents the life Dwight tried to bury when he moved west. The blood, the debt, the cold code of the old family. But ghosts don't stay buried when there's unfinished business, and Chickie's name keeps whispering through the cracks like a storm warning. The mob might be miles away, but their reach is eternal, and Dwight knows it. What makes Chickie such a terrifying force is that he doesn't even have to do anything. His existence alone unravels Dwight. The Dunmeyers, the Feds, the street-level hustlers, they're all threats Dwight can punch his way through. But Chickie is the embodiment of Dwight's past, the one war he can't win because it's internal. Every time Dwight tries to play the righteous outlaw, Chickie's ghost is there to remind him he's still just another gangster who traded burros, not morals. That's the real power move, staying in Dwight's head rent-free while he pretends he's free. And that's the cruel irony of it all. Chickie doesn't need to pull a trigger or send a crew to Tulsa. He's already won by being the one man Dwight can't outgrow. Every failure, every betrayal, every slip of control ties back to the old life he swore he'd left behind. Chickie's shadow isn't just looming, it's consuming. And if Dwight doesn't face it soon, it's going to swallow what's left of his so-called empire whole. The coming bloodbath. Who makes it out alive? You can feel it, that heavy electric quiet before everything goes to hell. Tulsa King has been flirting with chaos all season, but now it's clear. The talking's done, and the bullets are about to start writing the story. Dwight's running out of patience, the Dunmeyers are running out of mercy, and the feds are watching from the sidelines just waiting to pick through the wreckage. It's the perfect storm. Desperation, betrayal, and pride all colliding in one ugly showdown. The only question left isn't if there'll be blood, but who's left to mop it up afterward? This isn't some heroic shootout on Main Street. It's the collapse of everything Dwight thought he built. His empire isn't made of soldiers anymore, it's a collection of survivors pretending they still believe in him. Cleo's trust is fraying, Tyson's gone, and the rest of the crew's loyalty is paper thin. The Dunmeyers have money, power, and patience. Dwight has rage, instinct, and a terrifying inability to quit. That imbalance doesn't end clean, it ends in fire. This isn't about winning territory anymore. It's about survival, and the city itself feels like it's holding its breath, waiting for the first gun to go off. And that's what makes it brilliant, because deep down, we want the bloodbath. We've been waiting for it since the pilot. This show was never about justice. It's about consequence. Every lie, every bad deal, every smug "I got this moment" Dwight's had is finally coming due. The real tragedy isn't that he might die, it's that Tulsa might die with him. The king's crown is dented, the empire's on fire, and when the smoke clears, the only thing left standing might be the lesson. In this world, power always ends up paying for itself, in blood. So here we are, the empire that once ruled Tulsa, now bleeding out in real time. The streets are ready to erupt, alliances are snapping, and the man who swore he'd build something better has become exactly what he fought to escape. But maybe that's the point. Maybe Dwight was never supposed to win. Maybe Tulsa King isn't a redemption story at all. It's a slow-motion train wreck showing us that power, loyalty, and pride always end the same way, with betrayal, bullets, and a body count. So buckle up, because if this is the dark turn everyone's talking about, it's only the beginning of the storm. The empire's falling, the only question left is, who's still standing when the dust finally clears?
About this Dunmeyer? He's connected, Dwight.
I am obligated to destroy everything you have built.
Something's breaking in Tulsa King, and it's not just bones, it's Dwight's entire empire. The cracks that started as whispers in Season 2 have now exploded into full-blown chaos, and every piece of his kingdom is turning on him. His daughter's out for blood, his crew's fracturing under pressure, and the feds, Dunmeyer and Chickie, they're circling like sharks that smell a wounded animal. This isn't the confident, cigar-smoking Dwight we met back in Season 1. This is a man losing control of his myth in real time. The Brooklyn Showdown isn't a comeback. It's an autopsy, and if the trailer's any clue, we're about to watch the King of Tulsa get eaten alive by his own mistakes. Because here's the brutal truth no one wants to admit. Dwight Manfredi was never built to survive the world he created. He's old school in a digital jungle, a gangster with honor codes in a world where everyone's wired, watching, and waiting to sell him out. He thinks he's fighting to protect his legacy, but what legacy? A distillery front? A broken family, and a crew of men who'd trade him for immunity and a pack of smokes? This isn't the rise of a king. It's the slow, agonizing unmasking of a man who still believes loyalty is bulletproof. Spoiler, it's not. Not anymore.
We want to take out the competition.
Dwight goes back home. Brooklyn Gambit or trap? Dwight. The General Manfredi going back to Brooklyn isn't just a homecoming, it's a full-blown declaration of war disguised as a family visit. Let's be honest, the man doesn't do sentiment, he does strategy. But the streets he once ruled have evolved into a political minefield where old enemies don't stay buried, they wait. Going back home after years of exile, that's not nostalgia, that's stepping into the lion's den while bleeding. Every brick in Brooklyn remembers who Dwight was. was, and every person left standing has a reason to make sure he doesn't walk out alive this time. But here's the kicker. Dwight's ego might be the real trap. For all his swagger, his pride has become a liability the size of Tulsa itself. He's not walking into Brooklyn as the feared mob legend. He's walking in as the outcast who thought he could reinvent himself and got too comfortable playing cowboy. The trailer hints at tension, betrayal, and a quiet looming sense that Dwight's time in the shadows is over. But if he thinks he can outmaneuver Chickie and Vince on their own turf, he might just be proving them right, that the old dog really has lost his bite. And yet, maybe that's exactly why we can't look away. Dwight returning to Brooklyn feels biblical, like the sinner walking back into the temple he once burned down. It's poetic, reckless, and pure Sheridan-style self-destruction. Whether it's a power play or a suicide mission, this isn't just a trip down memory lane, it's the start of Dwight's reckoning. Every handshake, every look, every welcome back is loaded. Brooklyn isn't home anymore, it's the final chessboard, and this time Dwight's not sure if he's the king or the pawn.
Hey, what'd you think? I wasn't gonna hear about this? What's my cut?
You looking to start a war, Bill?
Well, you don't think anything's possible?
Tina's rage and the revelations that change everything. Tina Manfredi has been simmering for 2.5 seasons, and it looks like that lid's about to blow clean off. The daddy-daughter tension has always been a cocktail of guilt, resentment, and unspoken truth, but now it's spilling over into full-blown confrontation. Tina's rage isn't teenage rebellion, it's generational trauma in designer heels. She's tired of the half-truths, the blood-stained legacy, and the myth of Dwight the noble outlaw. The trailer teases a reckoning, one that could finally force Dwight to face what he's destroyed in the name of protecting his family. Except now, Tina's not asking for protection, she's demanding accountability. This is the kind of emotional explosion that cracks open a show's entire foundation. Because if Tina starts pulling on the right threads about her mother's past, about Dwight's secret deals, about who's really been keeping the Manfredi family safe, it could unravel everything. The revelations hinted at don't just change her view of her father, they change ours. What if Dwight's not the misunderstood anti-hero anymore? What if he's just a man who's been lying to himself and everyone else for years? Tina's fury feels like the audience's moral compass finally kicking in, and it's about damn time. But make no mistake, her rage comes with consequences. Every time someone goes after Dwight emotionally, someone else bleeds for it. And if Tina's words cut deep enough, we might see Dwight snap in ways we haven't since season 1. That unfiltered, brutal side that doesn't negotiate, doesn't forgive, and sure as hell doesn't lose control of his own story. Tina's truth might set her free, but it might also light the fuse on the most explosive father-daughter war Sheridan's ever written. The real question now, when the dust settles, will there even be a Manfredi family left? The Nico beatdown? Will Dwight cross the line in front of Chickie? If you thought Dwight had mellowed out, the Nico situation might be his breaking point, and it's got the kind of volatility that could make or break his already fractured alliance with Chickie. Nico's been a thorn in everyone's side, but this time, the trailer hints at something far uglier. A confrontation so brutal, it tests not just Dwight's loyalty, but his self-control. Chickie may talk about respect and family business, but let's not pretend he wants a show of dominance. He wants blood on the floor. And if Dwight loses his temper the way the trailer teases, we could be looking at a public execution disguised as a mob message. The irony? Dwight might think he's taking back control, but Chickie's the one pulling the strings. This is psychological warfare wrapped in old-school gangster theater. Chickie knows Dwight's pride, knows he can't walk away from a challenge, especially when it's personal. The beatdown becomes less about punishing Nico and more about forcing Dwight to dance to Chickie's tune. The second Dwight throws that first punch, he's back in the system he's been trying to escape since episode 1. The violence, the hierarchy, the cage that looks like power but smells like rot. And here's the kicker. If Tina or even one of Dwight's new Tulsa allies catches wind of what really went down, that moment of dominance could turn into the ultimate self-own. Because nothing screams I'm losing control like reverting to mob brutality in front of the very man you swore you'd never serve again. If this is Dwight's next move, it's not a power play, it's a relapse. And the sad truth? Chickie's probably smiling the whole time watching his old man's prodigal son destroy himself for free.
We want to take out the competition.
Jeremiah Dunlap. He's the tyrant of Tulsa.
Tyson gets cornered. Phone, arrest, and confessions. Tyson has officially reached that breaking point where loyalty feels like a curse, and every phone call sounds like a trap. The trailer flashes of him in custody, the feds circling like vultures. It's not just a subplot anymore, it's the domino that could send Dwight's empire crashing down. Tyson's been the moral heartbeat of the series, but let's be honest, he's also the softest target in the room. When the pressure hits, when the badge is in his face and Dwight's name starts echoing in the interrogation room, even the toughest ride or die can start seeing the exit sign. The feds know it too. They're not after Tyson, they're after his guilt. What's brutal here is how it mirrors the show's whole message. The old school loyalty code doesn't work in a world built on wiretaps and burner phones. Dwight taught Tyson everything about running the streets, but he didn't teach him how to survive when those same lessons become evidence. That phone call, the one the trailer teases like a loaded gun, might be the series' next ticking bomb. Whether it's a setup, a plea for help, or the feds baiting him into talking, it's clear the line between holding it down and going down is getting razor thin. If Tyson cracks even a little, it's game over. Not because he'd want to betray Dwight, but because he's the last piece of humanity left in a business built on rot. And when the system corners someone like him, it doesn't need to pull the trigger, it just waits for panic to do the job. The confession, the arrest, the moral collapse, it's the kind of gut punch that turns an empire into ashes. One voicemail at a time. Bodhi and Mitch exposed the dirty secrets behind the crew. Bodhi and Mitch have always been the quiet backbone of Dwight's empire, the brains and brawn working in the shadows, running the day-to-day while he plays kingpin philosopher. But let's be real, nobody stays clean in a crime family built on legit fronts and liquor deals that smell like blood money. The trailer hints that the past is clawing its way back, and this time it's not a rival gang or the feds doing the damage, it's exposure from within. The so-called loyal crew suddenly looks like a ticking time bomb of bad decisions, hidden accounts, and very public vulnerabilities. Mitch's honor among thieves vibe? Yeah, that's starting to feel more like denial than dignity. And Bodhi, the quiet tech guy who always knows too much, he might have finally crossed that invisible line where his brain becomes Dwight's biggest liability. Every shady transaction, every off-book deal, every time they said, "Don't worry, it's handled, it's all coming due." The kind of exposure hinted at in the trailer doesn't just end partnerships, it nukes entire networks. You can practically feel Dwight's paranoia setting in, because when your right-hand men start looking nervous, it usually means your enemies already know everything you don't. And that's the real danger. Not the law, not Dunmeyer, not even Chickie. It rotted from the inside. Tulsa King has been building toward this for 2 seasons, the slow decay of loyalty disguised as progress. If Bodhi and Mitch's secrets hit daylight, Dwight's not just losing his crew, he's watching his foundation crack in real time. And when the people who helped you build your empire become the ones holding the detonator, the collapse isn't a matter of if, it's when.
Dwight faces multiple threats this season.
He's certainly growing his empire on one hand, but fighting numerous battles from many fronts.
Chickie's comeback. Does Dwight's past finally chase him here? Chickie's comeback isn't just another subplot. It's a ghost story wrapped in a power play. You can almost feel the New York air creeping into Tulsa again, that suffocating sense that no matter how far Dwight ran, the mob never stopped watching. Chickie has always been the serpent in Dwight's garden, smiling, coiled, patient, and if the trailer's any hint, he's not here to reconnect, he's here to reclaim. Every ounce of peace Dwight carved out in Oklahoma is about to get dragged through the dirt, because Chickie doesn't want revenge, he wants validation. He wants the man who humiliated him to crawl back under the same leash. What's terrifying and kind of brilliant is how Sheridan's writing is making this personal war feel like destiny. Chickie doesn't need to send a hit squad, he just needs to show up. His presence alone unravels Dwight's illusion of control. One conversation, one smirk, and suddenly, Dwight's the soldier again, angry, reactive, and too proud to admit he's walking into a setup. You can practically hear Chickie whispering, "You thought you were free, Dwight. You're still mine." It's Mob Psychology 101, break the man before you break his empire. And honestly, this might be the best storytelling move the show's pulled all season. Chickie, returning to the picture, forces Dwight to face everything he's been running, from the guilt, the ego, the violence that he swore he left behind in Brooklyn. Tulsa may have made him a king, but Chickie's about to remind him who crowned him in the first place. And when that truth hits, it's not going to be a fight, it's going to be a reckoning. Crossfire between Feds, Dunmire, and Dwight's collapse. If there's one thing Tulsa King does better than most crime dramas, it's turning a turf war into a three-way bloodbath. And this new crossfire between the Feds, Dunmire, and Dwight feels like the kind of storm you don't walk away from. The trailer practically screams chaos. The law tightening its grip, Dunmire tightening his noose, and Dwight caught dead center trying to outplay both sides with a crumbling crew and a phone full of ghosts. This isn't strategy anymore, it's survival. And the worst part? Every move Dwight makes just gives one side more ammo to bury him with. The Feds aren't hunting Dunmire, they're building a case around Dwight. Dunmire doesn't want to kill him, he wants to bleed him dry. Everyone in this triangle is using the other, and Dwight's one step ahead. Confidence is starting to look more like delusion. He's playing checkers while everyone else is running wiretaps and cutting deals in back rooms. And with every ally that disappears, every operation that falls apart, he's becoming the thing he swore he'd never be again. A pawn in someone else's empire. What makes it all sting is that Dwight should have known better. He built this whole Tulsa empire on the illusion of control, pretending he could go toe-to-toe with men who've been playing the long game since before he got out of prison. Now, the Feds see him as bait, Dunmire sees him as leverage, and Chickie sees him as unfinished business. The king of Tulsa is standing in the middle of three guns pointed at his head, and the real question isn't if he falls, but who gets to pull the trigger first. Family fallout, when blood ties become weapons. Family has always been Dwight's soft spot. The one thing he swears gives him purpose while it quietly tears him apart. But in Tulsa King Season 3, those blood ties aren't binding anymore. They're bleeding. The trailer's hints of Tina's fury, her cold stares, her silence that feels louder than gunfire, it all says one thing. Dwight's "I did it all for family" narrative is collapsing under the weight of his own lies. His version of love has always come with a price tag, and now his daughter's done paying. What used to be loyalty has curdled into leverage, and every emotional debt Dwight ignored is finally coming due. The brilliance and cruelty of this family fallout is how it mirrors the show's central theme. You can't build an empire without breaking your home first. Dwight thought he could be both protector and predator, father and Don, but Season 3 is proving you can't play God and expect your family not to burn for it. Tina's anger isn't just personal, it's generational. It's the rage of a daughter who's realizing she was collateral damage in her father's ego trip. And if Dwight thought the mob was ruthless, wait until he sees what betrayal looks like from someone who shares his DNA. And that's where Tulsa King gets viciously poetic. Chickie, Dunmire, the Feds, they might all want Dwight's empire, but it's Tina who holds the real power now. She knows where to hit him, not in the streets, but in the soul. The family angle has stopped being a subplot and become the emotional war zone of the season. And if this fallout keeps building the way it's teased, Dwight won't lose because someone shot him, he'll lose because the only people he truly cared about finally stopped forgiving him. Who survives the Brooklyn showdown? The body count that's coming. The Brooklyn showdown isn't just another mob face-off, it's the reckoning Tulsa King has been promising since Season 1. Every thread Dwight's been pulling, the distillery deal, the Feds, Dunmire's chokehold, Chickie's creeping return, it all leads here, back to the place he swore he'd never set foot in again. And this time, it's not business, it's blood. The trailer's tone practically reeks of doom, tense silences, gunmetal shadows, and that gut-wrenching question nobody wants to ask, who's making it out of Brooklyn alive? Because make no mistake, this isn't going to be a clean negotiation. It's going to be a purge. This is Sheridan's brand of poetry. Every empire ends where it began, just messier and louder. Dwight's walking into a city that doesn't forgive and sure as hell doesn't forget. Chickie's not just bringing muscle, he's bringing memory, the kind that cuts deeper than bullets. Every betrayal, every act of defiance, every insult Dwight threw back across the ocean of their shared past, it's all been simmering, waiting for this exact moment. And when that trigger gets pulled, it won't just be a firefight, it'll be a generational execution. Old blood versus new rules, played out on streets that already smell like the ghosts of better men. And the body count? It's not going to be kind. Don't expect plot armor here, expect carnage. Expect redemption bought too late and alliances ending in gunsmoke. Because the brilliance of Tulsa King has always been this: Dwight's not the hero, he's the last man standing in a story that's been trying to kill him since it began. Brooklyn won't just be the end of an arc, it'll be the cleansing fire that decides who deserves to walk away from the ashes, if anyone even does. So maybe that's the real tragedy of Tulsa King. It's not about who wins, it's about who still believes they can. Dwight's too proud to see that the game's already moved past him. The feds don't need to arrest him. Dunmire doesn't need to kill him. Chickie doesn't even need to lift a finger. Dwight's doing the dirty work himself. One bad deal, one misplaced trust, one burst of ego at a time. And when that Brooklyn dust settles, when the smoke clears and the body count's written in red, we won't be talking about a king anymore. We'll be talking about a cautionary tale, the story of a man who thought he could rule both worlds and ended up crushed by both. But hey, maybe that's exactly what makes this show so damn addictive, because Tulsa King doesn't promise justice, it promises consequences. And Season 3 is serving them cold, calculated, and soaked in whiskey. So go ahead, call Dwight the King one last time, but don't be shocked when the crown hits the concrete.